This is the Enduring Minds podcast, where we explore the intersection of endurance sports and mental health, part of the Everyday Athlete Podcast Network. If you could, please rate, subscribe, review, comment. All of that helps Spotify, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts. Your co-host, Evan Birch, and I'd like to introduce Jason Bahamundi, my co-host in crime here.
What's up, everybody?
Jason, what is going on in your life?
Well, as you know, I'm training for the ultramarathon, which when this airs will have been finished because this will come out April 1st and our race is on March 22nd. And I actually hit paces on the treadmill yesterday that I didn't think were feasible at the ripe old age of 52. So I'm pointing in the right direction right now.
Trending upwards is what I like to hear. Nothing like a treadmill to give you confidence.
Yeah, that's it. Well, it's one of those assault treadmills, so it literally is powered by your own feet. There's no motor on it. It's hard though, dude. Like I don't know if you've ever used one, but at first I was like, this is weird. Like, does it feel natural, you know? And I made it a point, like I'm gonna challenge myself to, when I do treadmill runs, to only run on this and not on one with a motor. And so I've just gotten used to it now. And I think that's a really good lesson for people in life. Like, challenge yourself and see what you can accomplish.
Yeah, and those curved treadmills, they force you to have to pay attention. You can't, it's not like a treadmill where it's just going to go and you have to keep up with it. You have to actually be where your feet are.
Yeah, 100%. And yesterday, like during the cool down, my left foot hit the part that doesn't move. And so like everything stops, right? It's jolted.
Yeah. Yeah, I use it to warm up anytime I'm at the gym doing anything, just as a walk, just because it's just one of those things. But put your foot in a different plane as well too, which helps. So perfect. All right. Well, today's guest lives in the tension between the high-speed hustle of New York City tech and the brutal isolation of the world's harshest deserts, which Victor Zeitoune is the founder of Party Place app as well, and the architect behind the $1 Ultra, as well as a co-founder of the Almost Friday Run Club. So he has a lot going on, and really his movements that have redefined community in the modern age. But beneath the social success is somebody who thrives in the unsanctioned, most recently completing the speed project Atacama, where he was the first person across to the finish. Driven by the memory of his friend Sam Norton and the mantra, which I love, if it hurts, good. Victor runs to find what's left when the noise finally stops. Today, we're going to dive deep into the grit of the desert and the marathon of moving through grief. Victor, welcome to Enduring Minds.
Thank you so much for having me. Excited to be here.
So we like to start this off one very simple question. Who is Vic?
You know, it feels like a loaded question, and I think you gave a better intro for me than I probably would have. Victor in 2026 is someone who's trying to figure it out. I think 2025 is a really cool year, and between some running adventures, starting a company, and all of that, there was a lot going on. And 2026, I think, is about finding the grounding. The things that I think define me currently, I'll say number one is family. I am an uncle of 7 now, soon to be 8. I have 3 sisters, 3 brother-in-laws. My parents are awesome, super community-oriented, very grateful for that in New York. And then I've run a couple races here and there. I say I'm currently retired until the next thing excites me, but for now, we'll see what's next.
This question, the way Evan presents it to you is like, it's a simple question, but it is an uber complicated question. I mean, it is super complicated. And so you, I believe, and Evan can correct me if I'm wrong, my memory isn't so great half the time, is you're the first person who has actually delineated a time frame, right? Like you were like in 2026, but 2025 was this. And I think that's really cool. And it leads me to asking this question. Are you the type of person who is reflective, and so that you can separate a person, you can separate Victor from yesterday and Victor from today?
Yeah, for better or for worse, I'm very introspective. I write a ton. I talk to myself a lot. I talk to others in similar conversations like this. I'm someone who at any given moment is like driven by a thing. There has to be a something. And so that's why I define myself in periods, because during that moment, there's a thing that is keeping me forward and just keeping me on track. And so that is why I think of life in periods.
I have two quick follow-ups here. How old are you, if you don't mind me asking?
I am 28.
Okay, that's fantastic, because I just talked to a 29-year-old earlier this week, and her responses to me in our conversation were right along those same lines. And so it clearly must be generational in that way, because it was uber reflective. And then my other follow-up is this idea of New York City, right? And you said it community oriented, and it's great to have New York City. One of the things I love about New York, and our audience knows I'm born and raised, is the opportunity for anonymity in New York City. You can walk up and down the streets and be, lonely in a way, right? Like you're on your own. People don't know who you are because people are moving about constantly, and it's not that small town feel. Simultaneously, I think people mistake New York for being uber lonely, but it is uber community driven. Like, your neighbors, the guy at the bodega, the guy at the fruit stand, the lady at the donut shop. How did community come to be for you within a city like New York?
No, it's a great question. It's funny because a couple years ago I was on a hike, and along this hike we met a French couple, and I remember them describing New York as like this harsh place that it's like really difficult to break through the barrier. And my initial thought back was, on the outside that's really it, but what's cool about New York is anytime you enter a storefront, that kind of disappears. And so whether it's a storefront, your home, the office, on the streets you get to be anonymous and it feels cold. But the second you're in a place, it's probably the warmest. It's hard to say it's the warmest city in the world, but it's among one of the happier, warmer places you could find. I grew up in Brooklyn in a pretty tight-knit community. So for me, like, community was always just important. I knew everyone that lived in my block. I knew my neighbors. My high school had a total of like 600 people. So you were on a first name basis with everyone. So I think for me, just growing up with that, it's kind of what I seek out and expect. As an adult, living in New York, it's funny, a lot of my friends I met in the most random of ways. One of my best friends I met crossing the street. Another one of my really good friends I met like sitting at a coffee shop. And I think some of it just comes down to we're so used to just like walking by people or asking people, how are you, but not expecting the answer. And what I've found is when you get to the point of when you say, hey, how's it going? If you just wait a second, just pause, the person will realize, oh, they actually care, and they'll answer. And right off the bat, it's like you get to that next level. And so, like you said, in New York, I'm on a first name basis with almost every barista at every coffee shop I go to. And it's simply because before I order, I say, how's it going? And I wait. And they'll always give me an answer.
Yeah. I think Jason hit on something with regards to the generational side of things and things changing. I mean, all the run crews and run clubs that I'm connected with and all the run crew leaders here in Calgary, I'll say it's a younger crowd for sure. It's like sub 30-year-old, but you just see the level of connections that they're making within that circle. And I'm 40, I turned 40 this year, and you see those connections, you're like, I wouldn't say jealous, but you're just like looking at it, you're like, I want that. And there's some barrier for some reason, again, whether it's hustle culture, whether it's everybody's just thinking they're just supposed to work all the time, whatever that looks like. But connection is the biggest thing that I'm hearing in that, because every time I phone somebody on the phone, if it's a store or anybody that I'm calling, as soon as they answer, I always do exactly what you do, Vic. I just say, hey, how's your day? Or how's your day going? And they, like, the number of times that they take like 3 seconds and pause, and they're like, it's good. They just don't expect that.
They can answer. They're not used to people listening.
They're like, people just they take, right? And it's, so yeah, just to touch on that piece. And then I laughed when you said that you talk to yourself fairly often, and you write things down a lot. I remember as a kid, my dad was very similar to that. He was very like talk to himself all the time. And I still remember the phrase that he always used to say. I was like, why are you talking to yourself? And he said, it's because it's the only intelligent conversation I can get around here. And so feel free to use that one if you ever need to. Yeah, I thought that one would be good. But I did want to start off my kind of questions with something that I actually saved of yours. I found you wrote a story, and I saved it at the end of January. I was like, you know what? I want to read this one, and then I want to ask you about it. because I think there's something more to it. So I'm just going to read it out because it's on my phone here. So it says, reflection from last week. Lately, I've been shying away from leading with me, afraid that parts of me, the chaos, the curiosity, the adventure, might scare people off. And maybe that's the point. The people who care for you, the ones who bet on you, are invested in you, the real you. So that's who you should lead with, unapologetically, because the people who matter will stay, and the ones who don't. And the ones who don't were never meant to. So it might hurt to see some other people come and go. It means more that the ones who stay chose you. If that doesn't scream connection and community, like where, I mean, you may not remember writing that, maybe you do. But I feel like there was something happening that day or that week that happened before that you were just like, this is the Vic of 2026 coming into his own. So maybe just kind of touch on that a little bit.
No, of course. I vividly remember writing that in that moment. A little context, I go to a writing club every Sunday. I write throughout the week, but every Sunday morning, we're anywhere from 2 to 20 people, and we just meet at a coffee shop and everyone writes. Sometimes it's structured if no one has like a particular topic for themselves. And then sometimes it's like, write whatever you want, which is the vast majority of the time. I think for me, in that particular moment, that was the end of January, I ended 2025 probably on on a really high note. End of November was Atacama, and the following weeks I was just so content. I didn't need the next thing. I felt really great. And then the come down started coming, and the real question with the come down always comes down to like, what's next? And there's a couple reasons that make choosing what's next really difficult. One of them is, how do you top certain experiences? So coming off of last year, I don't know what could be next. And then also you just need to be excited about whatever that thing that is next, whether or not it tops it. The thing that makes it really difficult with a lot of the conversations with either people I love and they're really close with me, or people that I meet for the first time, is talking about some of the, what I like to call insane things I do, although like give or take how you describe them. And that happened to have been a week where in a couple conversations, I've avoided talking about some of the things I had done in the past. Mm-hmm. And either it didn't come to it or it came to it and people's reaction was like, oh my God, what the heck is wrong with you? And I was like shying away from just leaning into that. And that's the context of that one, where I was like, you just have to lead with whoever you are. And yes, you want to make the first impression on people. And yes, you want to be remembered in a positive light. But if your impression is not who you actually are, and the positive light is not actually the positive light that you really do offer, then what's the point? And that's the context of that one, where it's just lean into the person that you are and what you actually offer, and the right people will and should stay. Everyone else, if it's not the right fit for them, it's not the right fit. It's fine.
There's something about the Speed Project, because I have spoken to many that have done, like I did LA to Vegas solo. You've done a relay and you've done Atacama now. And there is something that changes fundamentally in my running journey as soon as I finish that. And I don't even think it was a matter of like, what's next? It's like, what do I actually want from running itself?
Yeah.
Because it is such an introspective journey. Even, yes, you have people with you and all these other things, but I'm sure you think back to the things that happened out in the desert. Like, I mean, I know your truck broke down, you're by yourself for a period of time, and I know a little bit of the story, but yeah, there was moments that you just like latch onto and you hang on to, and that at least for me, I 100% relate to that feeling of knowing like, where do I want to go? Like races right now, I'm going to do a few because I'm interested in a few, but there's nothing that really gives me that same hunger where I'm like, I want to do that right now.
Yeah, and it's funny. So last year I did LALV solo in March, and then Atacama solo in November. And first off, I don't recommend 200-300 mile races in the same year. Not a great idea. One in a lifetime is probably enough. But I remember finishing the first one, and similar to your feeling of like, I've done it. I felt really great, but it was the way I would describe the difference between two is that first one was really fun. Like, yes, it was really introspective and I was solo a lot, but I just felt like I had such a blast. The first race, that a couple days later when Nils had messaged me about Atacama, I was like, I do think there's more. Whereas like the second one was so deep and introspective and so lonely out there in the desert. And I did have two incredible friends with me, but there was something about finishing that. There was something on day 3, I remember just looking into the sand dunes and thinking, I'm good. And I didn't know what it was, and I don't know what I found, but I just remember being like, I think we're good. Whatever it is that I needed, it's like, I found it. And so, yeah, what's next? No idea.
Before I get to my question, I mentioned I had talked to a 29-year-old female earlier this week, and very similar thought process. She told me that she did 10 races in 2025, and she's got like maybe 2 events on her schedule for 2026 because she's looking for the thing that's exciting her, not just to add to the ultra sign up registration page. And I think that's super amazing and reflective and allows me to now think about my own journey. I raced the initial Cocodona in 2021, and I haven't really found the thing that lights me on fire since then. I've gone and done races and they've been okay, right? Hey, we did it, cool, put a check mark in the box until this year. And this year I'm doing something totally different. I'm going back to the road and I'm running 3 marathons this year amongst a couple of other events. And I'm super excited about that. And so I think the lesson here is like, you don't have to do all the things all the time, especially if you're doing them for the public and you're not doing them for yourself, which leads to this statement that you made earlier. And I think I just read this the other day, and I'd love for you to expand on it. It said, if people leave for you being real, then the relationship was fake. And that kind of dives right into what you had said earlier. But how do we figure that out? And when the people leave us because we are being our true selves, doesn't that still impact us, even though we're like, oh, well, this wasn't a real relationship anyway, and we dismiss it. But it's still an impactful scenario to have a breakup in a sense.
I mean, it still hurts. It still sucks when that happens. And I don't think in any given moment afterwards where I'm like, okay, that was meant to be. I think just one of those things you look back at maybe a couple months, a couple years, whatever that timeline is for you, and you're like, okay, this is why that didn't work out. And so it's funny, I find that sometimes how I actually act versus what I write, like the acting is months after I write it. It just takes a while to get it out there, and then I could finally like actually internalize that thing that I was able to put on paper. It's tough. Yeah, no, I wish I had like a better answer on that front. It still sucks.
I think that's the answer, though. It's complex, right? We try to put things into these neat little boxes, but life doesn't work that way, right? Like, I have a blog post coming out March 2nd here about human beings being puzzle pieces and not tiles. And the reason why we're puzzle pieces is because when I connect to you, you're connecting to me, and we're sharing our lives in a way. Whereas if you're a tile, you're just next to each other, and there's something separating the two of you, which is the grout, right? And that's the reality. Is like we're complex. There is no simple answer to this stuff, right? Like, I don't know. I get bothered when people try to simplify it so much, and they're like, "Well, I just ignore those people. I just move on in life." And I'm like, that's just not the way it really works. Because internally, you're bothered by it. You're just not acknowledging it more than anything else in that scenario.
I am jealous every once in a while of people who just move through life without thinking. I'm like, wow, they're just unbothered. They don't care. They just go on with their lives. I could barely like make breakfast without thinking about like deeply something.
The way that I view that piece now is it's people who are afraid to meet something within themselves. So it's easier to stay busy and stay moving and not have to think about that because as you said, you write, and then maybe a couple months down the road, that writing comes into your life as like an action. There's a cost to having a level of awareness and peace in your life that people don't realize. Like it is actually harder to have awareness and peace than it is to just like keep motoring through until you burn out. And that It's crazy.
We can share episode 1 of season 2 with Peter Verxio. This topic actually came up, and he answered it far more eloquently than I can. Look, you're a born and raised New Yorker, Vic, and so am I. It'd be like, man, fuck right off. Like, just, you're not doing that. Fuck you, right? Like, we would just be that way. And so Peter's response to this topic, which wasn't planned to talk about today, was far more eloquent. And so anybody who's listening to the show or watching this episode, go check out season 1 of Enduring Minds as well, because Peter talks about this idea of people just sort of flittering through life and how easy it is. But the reality is they're actually just running away from things instead of taking things on and processing them, which takes a lot of courage, takes a lot of conviction, takes a lot of patience, and is also stressful and creates anxiety at the same time, right?
So the Almost Friday Run Club, I'm going to assume that wasn't your first foray into running. So I'd like to hear a little bit about how you got into running, whether it was school, whether it was later in life, and how you found community really through the Almost Friday Run Club in New York.
Yeah, it's a good question. I did not grow up as a runner. I played baseball until I was like 14, but I had a very late growth spurt. So everyone I was like 4'11" when I was 14. I'm now like almost 6 feet, but it's at the time, like, everyone outgrew me at 80-mile-per-hour fastballs coming at me, and I was too little to react. So I stopped playing. I started running after college, and funny enough, it was after my best friend's engagement party, where it was the first time in my life where I'd like sweated through a shirt. Not that I was ever fit beforehand, but I was never not fit. And so I remember waking up the next day and being like, I feel gross. I need to do anything that never happens again. And my goal was like, if I could work out a little bit in some sense, I could probably party more. That was like the initial logic. And so 21-year-old me like goes into his closet, finds whatever shoes he has, and just like starts running on the street. I made it, I think, like half a mile. Then I like stopped, like held my legs, turned around, came home. And I hated it. I was like, this really sucks. And the next couple weeks, I was like, okay, I'll just do this a couple times a week because I'm clearly like not someone who lifts. Like, I'm not going to go to the gym and start doing that. I wouldn't even know what I would do. I'm not a big team sports person. I don't know. I like solo adventures. And so that summer, I was spending abroad at an orphanage. And they warned us beforehand, hey, no drinking, no drugs, no anything. Like, these kids have had such a rough life. You can't be the ones to spiral them. And so the only way that I had to cope that summer was through this running that I had just picked up. And so I ended up running 5-6 days a week, all like 3 to 5 miles, nothing particularly dramatic. But when I came back from that, there was just something about me that felt like there was more there. And so that's how I got into running to start. That year, I jumped into a couple races. I ran my first half. I ran my first 3 marathons. Bad idea, don't run 3 marathons in a year, your first year. Maybe later on, if you know what you're doing. First year is a bad idea. During that period, I think I realized I could be like decently fast. And so what I was trying to do at that stage, right after college, right after getting into this, was find community in New York around this hobby that I really loved. And I really struggled. I kept thinking, okay, maybe if I get a little bit faster, I could run with these people that I wish I could be part of that community. And there's more than a handful of clubs in New York. And at the time, I figured, okay, if I run faster than 3 hours in a marathon, like maybe I could join them. And I went and I ran 2:48, and I still couldn't. And I was like, okay, if I run faster than 17 minutes in the 5K, maybe I could join their workouts. And I went and I did that, and I still couldn't join. And I'm like, what do I need to do to be a part of this thing? Like, I'm running faster than anyone else is. I'm putting in more work. And I really just could not find the running community. I couldn't find my place in it. And then COVID hit, and I came back from COVID, and I relocated for a little bit and came back. And I remember meeting one of my good friends now, Graham, at a coffee shop. And I walked in that day in 3-inch shorts. So he looks at me, he's like, I don't know you, but I'm guessing you're a runner. And for me, it was laundry day, so it's the only pair of clean shorts I had. So I was like, yeah. And he's like, okay, we're starting this run club. You should come. And so I show up that Thursday morning. There was 3 people. There's no club. It was completely like made up, and it ended up being what turned into Almost Friday Run Club And I think what made that really special is it started as friends. We had an iMessage group chat. It started with 5 of us and then became 6 and then 7 until we hit 32, where iMessage maxes you out. And it really was like our friendship and our community, where it was when you were making plans, you used that chat. When it was before Run Club, we used that chat for running races. Like everything was around that. And that was the moment where I just realized, like, this is the kind of community I've been looking for so long. And this is the kind of thing I would hope to create for others.
What were the barriers that you couldn't overcome with those first couple of run clubs? Was it you didn't feel welcomed despite the speed? Like what was the issue?
Yeah, I think I didn't feel like I had a place in that group. And looking back at it, I totally am not, like, at the time I was actually offended. I was like, why are they not welcoming me into this place? And I look back at it and I kind of get it. At the end of the day, it was a friend group who had been training together for years. And like, yes, I could run their paces, but it doesn't necessarily mean I was like part of that friendship that they had. And I think for me, I was looking to be a part of that. Whereas they were happy to let me join the workouts, but they still had like their friend group. But at the time I remember thinking like, I want this for more than the workout. Mm-hmm. And so that's what we ended up creating with Almost Friday Run Club, whereas it could be just your workout or it could be more, you could decide. But that for me was the struggle at that point.
Yeah, it leads me to this phrase that I literally just uttered in my brain prior to the show, which is, I'm not for everybody and everybody's not for me. And so if you're showing up to this friends group, really, let's call it what it is, more so than a run club, right?
Yeah.
They're not for you and you're not for them in that scenario. And so it gives you the opportunity to create the thing that you see missing in the world, right? And that's also another cliche that people like use, which is if you don't see it, build it. And that's essentially what you've done. And so what makes your friend group / run club different now? Like, are the 3 or 4 people that sort of got it all started, like introducing yourselves to everybody, bringing everybody in and giving them the sense that you're a friend here if you want to be a friend, or you can just come and hang out and do the run workouts and then split?
Yeah, I think the thing that made us what we were in the early days was that it just felt genuine. You didn't come to a formal run club where someone would get up and speak and then you would know who was organizing it. There was just, everything was anonymous. You showed up, there was a group of anywhere from 10 to 30 people, you would talk and someone would just start running. So it really did feel like you went to a coffee shop and you were just talking to strangers. Now it's a little different. We're a little bit bigger. We take over a little bit too much of the West Side Highway. So we do need to give a little bit of a heads up to people like, hey, stay to the right. But in the early days, it genuinely felt like community. And so there wasn't even like, going up to say hi to new members, because there's no idea of membership. You didn't know who was the organizers to even be like, they are. And then the other thing that I think makes us a little bit different than most is we don't do pace groups. Everyone runs at what we call like the lowest common denominator. So whoever is going to hold the pace back is like what it's going to be. We run 3 total miles. We walk in the middle. So even if you do end out a little bit behind, you will catch up because our walk, and it's out and back. So you'll catch people along the way. And so it's just everything about what we do just like leads into this. We're here not for the running aspect. We're here for like the community aspect. And the thing we always used to say, and I still feel strongly about this, is like, we're a run club, not a race club. So you would never know if you showed up, because we're running 10-minute pace for everything, that there's a handful of people that could run and have run in the low 230s to high 220s in like the marathon. And you wouldn't know that we've had women in our club finish in the top 10 US like runners on the international stage. You would never know that because we're all running together. But that's like, I think what makes it special. There's no intimidation factor. It's just we're here to be together.
Yeah, it's running connects you, and that's all it is. It's not about the run. I mean, I know we've all heard that before, but it's so much more than that from what you're saying. I know one of your co-founders of the club is no longer with us, and I know you started what's called the Sam Project through that. So maybe share a little bit about Sam and what he means to you and what he means to the club.
Yeah. So Sam Norton is one of my best friends and one of the founders of Almost Try to Run Club. When I showed up that first week, he was one of the 3 people there, and he was consistently one of the people there until he passed. Sam was, I mean, I don't really know exactly where to start. It's really hard when you think of this person as like so instrumental to your life and so impactful. He was like the true definition of a good friend, and someone who you like were so proud to choose to be a part of your inner circle. And he genuinely just cared about everyone in his life and would go to battle for you. I think one of the things that made us, the community, so special at the beginning, and I say community, but it really was a friend group, was Sam was like always orchestrating. So if he ever said, this is what we're doing, everyone just like rallied behind. He was just like a natural leader. If he would put together, he was the reason we all ran at the lowest common denominator speed. Because when I joined, I was like, I don't get this. Like, we should be moving a little bit quicker. I knew he could. I knew I could. I knew most of us could. And he would always be like, nope, this person goes that pace. This is what we're going. So he's the person that grounded us all in honestly just thinking about the people around us. He had a way with words in just the way he looked at the world. And one of the things I write on my arm for every race I do since he passed is something that he told me before the marathon that we had run together that he passed during. I remember telling him, the marathon sucks because there's so much time for things to go wrong. And he like immediately stopped me and said, there's so much time for things to go right. And it was just like a quick pivot in the way you see the world. And he's like, things could be going wrong and things could go downhill. Take your step back and just realize like there's so much opportunity for things to turn. And it's one of those things like I've just held on to ever since. And so, yeah, we miss Sam a ton. He passed in 2023 on August 27th. And yeah, he's still a part of everything we do.
As you go through life, inside of running and outside of running, and I wrote this down, right? The pivot of so much can go wrong, but so much can go right. Like, do his words resonate with you outside of the running space as well as you're going through seasons of life?
Yeah, the saying there's so much time for things to go right is one of those things I think applies to everything. So whether it's a work rut, whether it's a friendship or a life rut, like using that as a little bit of a reset. The other thing that he had told me at one point that, again, it's not like this one wasn't a new saying, but it's just something that was so grounding, was you create your own luck. And that's one of the things that in all settings of life, I just like look back to. So when things could be going better in any given way, and you're like, wow, the universe is plotting against me, it's just taking a step back and being like, you're in control here, put yourself in that position for these things to happen. And so yeah, Sam was like one of my best friends in running, but also out of running. And we met through running. We shared tons of miles, but we also just like got to share a lot of life. And yeah, what he had said and the messages he left us with definitely resonate everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, life is complicated, and talking about Sam is obviously difficult for you. And I've lost both of my parents, and so when their names come up, there are moments where it's difficult to talk about. And I remember their memories and the things that they taught me and the things that they've said to me, and it does bring a smile to my face. So I'm wondering, like, in those hard times, do you think about Sam? And it's hard to think about Sam, but it also brings some light to the day, and you're like, I got to share time with him, and that's beautiful.
There are definitely moments, mostly on the run, where I will turn to my right and it feels like he's there. I remember the first time that happened was a couple months after he passed, and I was in Boston where he went to school and where he grew up. I was there for work. And I remember feeling like so vividly like he was sharing that run with me. And so very often running around the streets of New York, places that we either shared miles or had spoken about sharing miles, I do look over my shoulder and feel like he's there with me. It adds a little bit of a light. It definitely adds a little bit of a sadness that we don't always get to share the adventures that we thought we would together. But it's nice to know that it feels like he's still there.
I'm sure all the racing you did last year and the time that you were allowed to be in your head alone was probably a very interesting time, because I can relate to it, and things like this are inevitably going to show themselves. So what did you learn about grief and those other pieces when you had all of that time alone that very few of us actually give ourselves these days? I mean, I've heard a couple of notifications going off randomly, and I'm like, where else can you go for 4 to 6 days where nobody else can reach you, talk to you, and you get the opportunity to just go inward and start asking questions? Um,
Yeah.
I feel so deeply about it because it hit me so hard. So I'd love to hear what questions came up for you in those 300 miles each time.
You know, it's funny. I think most people expect that during it, I had these like profound, like introspective moments. And I think for me, the thing that I loved about both of these experiences is everything stopped. Like during the first one, LALV, it was a lot more fun in terms of like pure essence of I smiled a lot more.
Yeah.
And I just really didn't think, because at a certain point, the only thing that you think of is right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left.
Mm-hmm.
And so as much as I want to say like I had these really deep moments in the desert, I don't really feel like I had anything that I could particularly recall of like, this is what I thought. I do think my brain wiring changed out there both times, especially the second time. But it's really just like mind-numbing. For 300 miles on a straight road in the Atacama Desert, I think there was a total of 4 or 5 turns. Like you really think of nothing. And there's something just so special about that. And so I don't necessarily know if there was a moment of like, I got to deal with certain emotions out there, but it was probably the purest I've felt in a long time.
Let me rephrase the question. I just want to rephrase the question really quickly, because I know there's going to be something that comes from this question. What questions did you have when you went back to the noise of New York after being in the desert for as long as you were? What questions did you have then about what you were doing after that experience?
Okay, that is a good question. This doesn't sound crazy. The biggest question I had was why, because it's not the one. It's something I thought would answer itself out there, and it didn't. Like neither time did I walk away being like I knew why I had to do this. Both times it validated that I knew I had to do it. But the biggest question I finished with both times is like, why do I put myself through this? And so, yeah, that's probably like the biggest one, with the noise of the world and trying to get your body to work. I couldn't put shoes on for 10 days. Like, just like, why do we do this?
I was going to allude to something very similar in your answer, because I was like, the lesson learned is silence is powerful. Like we're again, notifications are dinging. There's people around us and stuff like happening constantly, but silence is powerful because it does allow you to reflect. So in that moment out in the desert, it was a blank slate for you. But then the moment you got back to the noise and it disrupted your life in a sense, you're probably thinking, that silence was grand. How do I start to take some of this noise out of my life?
Yeah, and I think that's for me where writing comes in. It's why I probably write so much. Those are like the moments where everything stops. So what I try to do for myself is when I write, I don't bring a phone or a laptop. Like it has to be pure, and not necessarily that makes it pure, but like a no distractions style really helps. But it's really hard to recreate the silence of the desert when you literally have no phone service and you are out in the middle of nowhere for 4 days.
I want to get into the writing thing for a second then, because the way you described it, it sounds to me like you're pen and paper, and yet somehow Evan wrote it. So are you taking a picture of your handwriting and sharing it, or are you then going to a laptop and transcribing it?
So I take a picture and then feed it to ChatGPT to transcribe it.
Okay.
I am lazy to retype my own writing. Everything's pen and paper. Actually, I have a notebook right here. I always carry a notebook with me. I share some of my writing. If I do, it's usually on a Monday. It's usually what I wrote Sunday. I don't share everything. But I do have a site that's hidden. No one really knows where this is, but where I will put a lot of the things that I have transcribed just so that I could go back to it, because I don't typically rewrite. I don't typically reread any of my writing. So it's not
That
like,
was
one, like you reading mine, I was like, that's probably the first time I've reread that since.
And that was going to be my question, because if you're typing it, it's there, right? But if you're handwriting it and then transcribing it by typing it, you start thinking, oh, this would sound better if I used this word or versus that word. And it's not that it's not real anymore, but it's not the real when you were in that state of emotion and free-flowing ideas in writing. So when ChatGPT transcribes it and you put it on your site, wherever that may be, do you literally hit post and then walk away so that you're not rereading it then?
Yeah, it's also a password protected site that only I have access to. So it's really no one sees this. But yeah, I do that. It feeds it straight to my site. It even writes in my style. So I don't share my actual notebooks often, but I don't write in sentences. I just write with words sporadically around the page. And so like everything is just pure. I also am a horrific speller. So part of the rules of my transcription is don't change my spelling, even if it's wrong.
That's amazing, because it's an opportunity to truly self-reflect by just writing and then moving on with it, right? You're not editing yourself, and that's amazing.
What do those represent to you? Those notebooks, all of those words.
I think if I were to, each one represents a time period in life. Mm-hmm. And that's like similar to earlier, where if you go back, not that I go back and read, but if I were to go back at any given moment and read that, I would just be like, oh my God, this is who I was during that period. There's only one journal that I have that's out in the public. No one reads it. It's in my apartment, but it's the only one that I see often. It's the one that I have from the first TSP. And even in that, I won't reread anything, but it's one of those things where like this defines like last year. This has all the moments, the highs, the lows, out in the desert, the getting back, how I'm dealing with it, what's next. And so, but yeah, that when I look at that, it reminds me of just a lot of last year.
Yeah. Jason and I were talking about this the other day. We had a conversation, and this idea that this podcast that we're doing, we're having all of these guests on for the last 2 years, and we're capturing a very brief moment in time in their life, an hour of their time, asking questions about where they are right now and their experiences. In 3 years from now, when you look back on something like that, like rather than in this idea of this content machine, I told Jason, like, I want to start seeing this as like a legacy. These conversations that we're having, I want to be able to send this back to you in 3 years from now and being like, listen to what you were thinking back then and just see that trajectory. So is there any point, do you see yourself going back and reading that first journal and having that experience for yourself? Or is this like put my thoughts, lock it away, and maybe someday, but probably not?
I mean, there's a possibility I save everything so I know it's there. It is crazy to look back a couple of years and just be like how different life is. A couple of years I was working whatever job I was working. I thought that I would never run an ultramarathon, and I thought speed was everything. I didn't care about a lot of the things that are important in my life now, and just to look at that shift. So I can imagine 3 years from now, I don't know, I can't even imagine what that'll be like. But to look back at this moment, one of the things that I do, it's one of the few times I read my writing, is I write letters to my future self and like pivotal moments of life. So I do it every year on January 1st and I read it December 31st. And then I do it before most major life events. So at the start of both TSPs, I had a letter that I'd written to myself the day I signed up. And so those are the times that I typically read my writing. And it's crazy to, even just a couple months, see the difference of like, I can't believe this is what I was thinking a few months ago, and this is where I am now. So that's one of the few moments I reread my writing, but maybe one day.
I am blown away by this, because I literally just posted a blog post yesterday on our website about running doesn't need bouncers. and it's about gatekeeping. And I reflected on how I used to gatekeep when I was racing in triathlon. And so having that self-reflection and perspective fuels my writing. Like I go back and see what has changed over time. And so I'm fascinated by this idea, right? Like publish, turn the page, whatever happens today, cool. I'm not reading what happened yesterday. Um, has has it always been the way you've gone through life? Like yesterday is yesterday and today is today, and I've got to take on today. I can't worry about what happened yesterday.
No, I wish I could say I always thought of life this way. Um, this is probably more the last couple of years. Honestly, it's probably since I started seeing a therapist for the first time, if I'm just being real with myself.
Mhm.
Like, I probably wasn't always as clear-headed. Not that I'm particularly clear-headed, but as clear-headed as I am now relative to then. But no, it's just one of the things that's come with time and that I hope to always get better at.
I want to go back to your mantra that I spoke about in your introduction. If it hurts, good. What does that mean to you in both running and life in general?
If it hurts, good is one of the things Sam used to say, and so that's where that's from. What that means is life just isn't easy and won't be easy and probably shouldn't be easy. And when those moments happen, good, lean in. And so I remember it's the name of the documentary that came out after we ran the relay from LA to Vegas for TSP, If It Hurts Good. And funny enough, if you watch that, it's like handwriting, and that's my handwriting from the team journal we had. I remember us thinking during that, we were in the Mojave Desert, driest place in North America, and it snowed. And I remember like we all looked at each other and we're like, if Sam was here, he would fucking love this. He would just be like, this is bad, good, keep going. And so that's one of those things that we just kind of lean in as a friend group, and it just reminds us of like, life isn't going to be easy. And there's certain moments, especially where we're just gonna be like, this sucks. But good, just keep going. And so that's what that means in that setting.
It's interesting that you brought up Sam's name again, and the previous answer had therapist in there. And as you were talking about Sam just a few minutes ago, my therapist, when I was seeing one, said people are on a dartboard and some of them move into the bullseye and then they might move away. And like people are just fluid on a dartboard for you. And when you get one in the bullseye, you want to hang on for that moment. And the fact that you brought Sam up again in this scenario tells me that Sam was the bullseye for you. And like, I don't think people really understand how rare that actually is, especially in today's world where we live in a transient society. You live in New York, you get a job in, Boise, and you move and you leave, and then you have a job in Boise and you get hired in Sarasota, Florida, and so you move and you leave. To have somebody who landed in the bullseye and stayed there is remarkable. And I understand that he's no longer with us, but I have to tell you this. Congratulations. Like that is an amazing thing to have in a world where people are competing for attention. People are competing for, money. We're competing constantly. And to have somebody grounding you is unbelievable. And sorry, but like that's really fucking cool to have. So thank you for bringing his name up again, and thank you for sharing his story. I don't have a question. It just impacted me to hear his name come up and being able to align it with the therapist example of being on a dartboard. And I'm happy that you had the chance to experience that in your lifetime already. It's amazing.
Yeah, I felt and still feel very lucky that whatever amount of time it was I had with him. So yeah, thank you for saying that.
Yeah, my only parallel to a story similar to that with Sam is we built an Airbnb in our backyard, or like a secondary unit, and the guy who ran the company, we became friends over a brief period of time over that year and a half. And he saw everything that I did with running. He's like, you're crazy. Like, I can't believe you're doing that. And then he started asking more and more questions. And then he started running with his friends down in Lethbridge. And then he started signing up for races. He did a couple races. I mean, this would have been probably 2 days before he passed away. He unfortunately passed away in a motorcycle accident. right in front of his family, which was pretty brutal. But he was with us that day beforehand, and he had this phrase that sticks with me all the time, and ever since it comes up constantly, and it's life is too short to only do one thing. And now I have my hands in so many different things because he showed me that you don't have to take this one path. Like there's not one right way. There's not one way to do these things.
Yeah.
And if you fail, that's just information. That doesn't mean you chose the wrong thing. That's just information to move on to the next thing. So it's these people that are no longer with us. And I mean, I didn't get to spend a lot of time with them, but I'm sure as hell glad that I got to spend the time that I did, because I wouldn't have these things and this trajectory of these last 2 years of my life going like that has been a huge driver for me. And I hate to say it's unfortunate that we maybe see these things a little too late sometimes when some of these traumatic things happen. And I wish I would have spent more time with them. But again, I can't change that. All I can do is affect what I'm doing right now today, not the past, not the future, like right now today. So I feel that deeply.
Yeah. I think what he had said is something that I hold really closely. It's actually something I've struggled with lately. I don't think it's healthy for anyone to only have one thing. A lot of people will throw themselves into a thing. And at least me personally, I need to always have two. Right now I only have one, which is just like I've been throwing myself into the startup world, which is very rewarding, very fun. I feel so blessed I can do that. But I've always had two things. So whether that was that in ultras or that in marathon or whatever it is, and finding that second thing is, I think, really important for people. And the people that I see content with life that don't have two things, I'm like, wow, they're probably mentally stable. So that's number one, good for them. I don't have that. But number two, I'm just like, if they realized how rewarding it was to have two things they cared so deeply about, their lives would be forever changed.
It's interesting. I've been using this phrase a lot more lately about Run, Try, Bike, and the Everyday Athlete club that we have built. We are people who run, not runners who people, right? Because, and in that world, what I'm getting at is you do have more than one thing about your life. And if running is the only thing in your life, go find something else, because you should have something in addition to that. And so like for me, obviously I'm a runner, but I'm also an entrepreneur. I love baseball. I love reality TV shows. Like I want to be able to walk into a room and be able to find a diverse community of people talking about diverse things and being able to plug myself in, as opposed to being able to only walk into one room to talk about one thing the entire time. Because the way my brain works, I'll be bored in a heartbeat and I'll leave.
Yeah.
I'll be like, okay, I know how far a mile is. I know what a kilometer is. I know what a pace is. This conversation is going nowhere. I'm leaving, right? And so I'm leaning into what you're saying in this idea that go find something else as well, and be able to connect those two things, because you're going to learn from both of them, and you're probably able to use one with the other at some point in life as well. So I'm in total agreement on this concept of having more than one thing to be in love with.
I think
want to
be more successful. Sorry, that's the last
yeah.
thing. Yeah, it's like when you go from item to, if you're always thinking about one thing, it's really difficult to find the thing that will get you from like here to here.
Yeah.
Versus like when you step away, do another thing, come back, you're like, oh my God, if only I tried this thing. And then you try it, you're like, boom,
Yes.
I would never have thought about that if I just stared at this wall for the last X hours. So I actually find it really helpful and like healthy and more successful to be able to step away and think of the other. And the same with running. Like, I mean, you can't run all day. You can for 4 to 5 days at a time. Not healthy either, but like you can't do that all the time. So to step away, focus on either work or family or relationships or friendships, and then come back to the training thing. You're like, okay, now I could lean into how I actually feel. What's my body thinking? What do I have that excites me? So yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to challenge you that you have more than one thing right now, because we haven't touched on the $1 Ultra. And I want people to know about this race in a very deep way. I was very sad when I saw the date come out for this year, because I had another race that I had already signed up for. So you are going to see me 1 year. There is no doubt. If you keep moving it, if you keep going with it, there's a very strong chance that I will be there. But what is the $1 Ultra, and where did this come from?
What is the $1 Ultra? Um, well, first off, sad you won't be there this year. We will hopefully be at this for many years to come, so just stay tuned. So the $1 Ultra is what we call an urban backyard unsanctioned ultra in New York City. So a backyard ultra is simple. Every hour on the hour, you run 4.16 miles until either you stop or the race ends when there's only one person left. So ultimately, it's like a last man standing kind of challenge. About a year and a half ago, I think actually even less than that. Wow, it feels like forever ago. Like 10 months ago, my friend Austin and I were messaging around a backyard ultra that was happening, saying like, I can't believe this is still going on. It was probably like 200 hours in at that point. And we threw around the idea of like, what if we just did one of these in New York? And I was away at the time. I got back. We went and sat for dinner, had some burgers, and on the napkin at the restaurant, we just wrote the words $1 Ultra, made an Instagram account, and just posted a picture of this napkin. And over the next couple of weeks, we just spoke about this event that was going to happen. And we were like, let's see what happens. Are people going to show up? We don't know. And the day of the race, we had 59 people show up to race the inaugural Backyard Ultra. It was unsanctioned. We just met on the grass lawn in the West Side Highway. And we had a route that we had thought about to make sure that there was a bathroom available 24 hours. But ultimately, we knew that the park would close, so we would have to figure that out. There was like so much going on, but year one was like such a major success in that we didn't expect anything and people loved it. We ended up making it 25 hours for the winner. I think for me, what was the coolest part is of the top 10 at the end, 9 of them had distance PRs by 45 plus average miles. So like no one had done this before. Everyone was like, okay, I'm going to keep going. We had 15 first-time marathoners that day because people just running 4 miles every hour. Like it was so cool to see. And what was also pretty cool was how viral it went in that people clearly really cared. So we were just like snapping like some random videos and setting up some random pictures, and everything was getting 50, 100, 150, or even 1 million views, just like getting sent around. And we're like, people clearly want this. So now year 2, it is very similar in style. It'll be an unsanctioned backyard ultra in New York City. Location is TBD. We went through an actual formal application process this year because there was way too much demand. And with our 50 people, we almost got shut down like 5 times last year. So we took TBD on the exact number, but we put out more than last year's invites, but we had turned down hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of applications that had come in. So it'll be really fun. And yeah, we're particularly excited about this year.
You're supporting a post that I put out on the Run Try Bike Instagram page a few days ago that said, share your idea. You never know where it may lead. And I mean, that's literally what you did. And the beauty of it is that you went into it with no expectations. Had you had expectations, 59 people showed up this first time, you were thrilled. If you put expectations on it and 59 people showed up, you might have been pissed. You might have been like, this isn't worth it now. And there would have been a year 2 because of that. I think there's a lesson in there too, right? Like, yes, when you start a business or you start something, you have visions of what it may look like, but don't pin everything on the success of that. Like success for you guys was camaraderie and community, again, going back to what we said at the start of this, and seeing people succeed, first-time marathoners, 40 to 50 plus mile distance PRs. Like that is the thing that doesn't get measured on a spreadsheet and creates value in that sense. So I thank you you had no idea you were reinforcing my post, but thank you for doing it. And we're going to get this clip out. We're going to share it with that image again, because I think people need to put their ideas out and be like, let's see what happens, right? One person shows up, cool. Look, your run club started with 3 people. And now look at where it's at too, right? It's amazing.
Yeah. The thing that actually made last year special, a couple things actually. One, I forgot to mention this. We don't charge, and we still don't charge registration fees. The way it works is at the beginning of every lap, you put $1 in the jar. That's where $1 Ultra comes from, and the winner gets the jar. So for Austin and I, this is actually a money loser. Like we walk away in like pretty far in the red. The other thing we do to keep people engaged and interested is we give out lap prizes. So if you just finished a lap, so last year we had 2, 4, 5, 6, like I think there was 10 or 15 prizes. You either got this shirt, which was really cool, or you got a camping chair if you made it 4 laps because we knew you'd be there for a while. We got some brands that I have like relationships with to send us stuff to give out. And people were like, wait, I spent $7 and walked away with like $400 in product. We're like, yeah, cool, like do it. And so that was the thing that I think made this really fun. But yeah, zero expectations on our part. We weren't sure if we'd bring it back. There was clearly enough demand. So we figured, we both run startups, but we're like, we'll find time to make this happen. The application process this year was really funny. But one of the things we did that I think for me showed what the demand for this race was, if you didn't get in, you got waitlisted. We didn't reject anyone straight out. And the waitlist experience was a virtual backyard ultra. And if you made it 24 hours, you got a spot.
Oh, wow.
And you had to literally every hour on the hour come back and press the run button. And we had 3 people stay up for 24 straight hours to get a spot into our race. And for us, we're like, wow, like people really. And so everything we do with this race is like scrappy and fun and just like core to the vision. But yeah, it's really fun.
I'm going to ask it now. You can say TBD if you want to. I feel like this is one of those things. I mean, the Burrito League just happened. I see this being something that could be more than one thing, but I also see it being amazing if it stays one thing. Do you see this going beyond just New York?
It could. We don't have any plans to at the moment. We have had interest from more than one city to bring it there. We've had interest from more than one brand to take it nationwide. But we have not yet decided what we want to do.
Okay. Well, I will be waiting with bated breath, and you'll see me in New York at some point. There's no doubt. So we're going to end with our simple questions again. Very simple question. Where is your mind right now after this conversation?
Where is my mind? Wait, that's not a simple question. Where is my mind? It's calm. It's definitely calmer than when I started.
Oh, why is that? Were your expectations different for this show than what we actually presented to you then?
No, I think this is what I expected, but sometimes when you talk about topics that you know might be heavier, there's 2 ways it ends. You either end in like a really intense emotional state, or you end in like this really calm, grateful state, and I'm kind of in the latter.
And I mean, I appreciate that because I think that's the number one thing we've went in with the intentions of having our guests feel supported in this space. Not a safe space. No space is ever safe. Jason and I talk about this all the time. There's risk everywhere, but to create an ability to have a conversation and walk away feeling calm and supported, like that's the greatest compliment we could ever receive. So thank you for that. So, I mean, this was an amazing conversation. I so appreciate your vulnerability, your stories, the connections you've made with your friend Sam, with the Sam Project. I think you have so many cool, amazing things going on right now that you are not just doing one thing. Let's be clear. You are doing way more than one thing. May feel like one thing some days, I'm sure, but definitely more than one thing. So we just want to thank everybody for joining us. And where can people reach out to you? Victor, where can people reach out to you?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not huge on social, but I do have an Instagram at Vic_ZEE. That's probably the best way to reach me. But no, I'm not like a huge social media presence.
Sounds good. If anybody's planning a party or get together in New York, we did not talk about Vic's startup that he's. So if you need a spot for a party in New York and you don't know where to turn, partyplace.com. Is that?
Yep.
Partyplace.com.
Partyplace.com.
Perfect. All right. Well, we want to thank everybody for listening today. And I want to thank Jason, obviously, for joining me like usual for these conversations. I walk away from these talks a changed person every single time, no matter who we talk to. And I know you feel the same way a lot of the time too.
100%. And we talked about providing some collateral, shall we say, for in the future. We've been exploring that. And I just realized, like, I've been writing notes this whole conversation, like taking a picture of these notes could be part of that collateral that we send to guests in the future and things that we can share on our platform so that we can reflect on those conversations and go back and be like, oh yes, I remember when this happened. And then the other thing that we didn't talk about in this conversation with Vic is we got two. That's a great question during this hour, which is awesome. And now we got one that's not a simple question, which is maybe have to be another category for us for the future.
Yeah, my simple questions are not so simple after all. I appreciate that. It's another compliment. I love it. So everybody, thank you so much for joining us for this episode. And until next time, keep going the distance and breaking the silence together.